Chapter 13, Finance. The U.S. Constitution imposes no legal obligation on the federal government to operate a public education system. State legislators are generally authorized to provide for a public education system. They may also levy taxes and develop a systematic method of distributing school funds. School districts are agents of the state but do not possess broad powers to levy taxes and are subject only to the powers delegated to them by the legislator. The legislator does have discretionary power to delegate taxing authority to local school districts if it chooses to do so, as long as state constitutional tax limitations are met. Taxing authority cannot be delegated to subordinate bodies unless there are clear limitations or restrictions placed on the delegated powers. State and local tax account for over 90% of educational expenditures. Sales tax and income taxes are primary sources of state funding, whereas property tax represents the most abundant source at the local level. Property taxes are generally characterized as real property or personal property and contribute the major source of funding for public schools. The three basic types of taxes are progressive, regressive, and proportional. With progressive tax, the rate of tax increases as the base increases. Consequently, a larger percentage of income is taken as a taxpayer income increases. Personal income and property tax are examples of progressive tax. In regressive taxes, tax rates decrease when the tax base increases, with higher income residents paying a smaller percentage than lower income residents. Gasoline and cigarette taxes are examples of regressive taxation. Consequently, no property is levied for education and no prescribed formula is used to fund public schools. State support for public schools is derived from the general fund. When a local district formulates its budget based on anticipated needs of the district, it may be necessary to levy taxes to generate needed funds. Tax rates are generally based on estimated revenue needed by the district to meet its financial needs. Estimated revenue projections must be realistic, made in good faith, and based on defensible grounds. Local school districts may not use their taxing authority with the express purpose of creating a surplus fund. It is not unusual for taxpayers to challenge the validity of a tax levy for school based on a claim that the tax levy is excessive and extends beyond the needs of the district. School finance programs have been challenged under both federal and state constitutions. Most challenges have focused on issues regarding equity of finance programs with respect to tax burdens. Other challenges involve assertions that parents and their children are denied the benefits of an equal educational opportunity based on disparities in tax revenue and distribution of revenue among school districts within a state. Legal challenges were pursued at both the state and federal level, challenging funding programs throughout the country using the fiscal neutrality standard embraced in Serrano to address disparity in wealth among school districts. One such case in Texas reached the U.S. Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision. The Supreme Court reversed a lower court's ruling that the Texas finance system was unconstitutional. The court did note the discrepancies created by the funding system where great disparities existed regarding ad valorem taxes from one district to another. In spite of these discrepancies, the court concluded that the Texas funding system did not work to the disadvantage of any class or group, since the disadvantages occurred only between districts regardless of the relative wealth of any family within the district. The Rodriguez ruling essentially removed future finance cases from reaching the highest court in the land. The U.S. Supreme Court's decision effectively placed legal challenges regarding school funding programs in the state courts since education is a function of the states. The compelling aspect of the Rodriguez ruling was that Texas' case did not interfere with a fundamental right, since education, while undeniably of high importance, is not recognized by the High Court as being among those guaranteed by the Constitution. Equity may be defined differently among state lawmakers. However, it typically means that per pupil, expenditures are equally distributed through a local school district. Since property tax is most frequently used to support local education, there are disparities throughout a state based on the level of local revenue generated by property tax. Most states attempt to generate funding formulas that subsidize local effort to compensate for disparities among wealthy and less wealthy districts. Typically, the equity formula includes state aid minus local effort as a means of creating parity in funding schools throughout the state. Some states refer to such formulas as power equalization formulas or district equalization formulas. The theory behind this approach is grounded in the need to provide equal educational opportunities for all students irrespective of socioeconomic status. Equal educational opportunities occurs when all school districts within a state have equal access to resources that are necessary to provide an education up to a prescribed level. Equity formulas by definition are input-based and have been the target of legal challenges over several decades based on funding disparities. In recent years, many states have commissioned studies to determine the adequacy of their public education system. The focus on adequacy is a departure from their traditional focus on equity. Equity denotes fairness, which suggests that all communities, rich or poor, are taxed at similar rates and have equal access to similar amounts of revenue per student, and which, of course, does not occur in most states. Public schools across the United States are facing increased pressure to improve the overall quality of education provided for students and have commissioned adequacy studies. Voila!